I have rated every single Pokemon in Pokemon Pocket, but first I must say, if my mic sounds muffled, I apologize. My mic is not good right now. But luckily, I got a replacement because I have a commission, so this will probably be one of the few episodes that will have a bad mic. I do have a couple episodes scheduled that does have a bad mic, and I apologize for that, but I am fixing it as we speak. Also, a couple of the episodes had a replacement mic, but that mic is now also broken, so it's like I'm back to this one, so you're just gonna have to wait until Monday. Anyway, anyway, let's rate these cards, starting with F. F cards are not exactly bad, but they're also not exactly good. These are cards that I would only recommend if you feel like it. Lieutenant Surge, move all electric energies from your bench to your Raichu, Electrode, or Electabuzz. If this was just moving electric energies to any Pokemon you have, it would be so much better. But because it specifically lists Raichu, Electrode, or Electabuzz, it's not that good. The Electrode and Electabuzz part is okay, but the Raichu part is what really screws this over. Magneton is the only way to play with this card because Magneton is a stage 1 that gets you energies to Magneton itself. But basically, you use Magneton on your bench, you get energies extra turn, extra energies every turn. So technically you're getting 1 to 2 more energies per turn depending on how many Magnetons are on the field. You use the Lieutenant Surge, push it to your Electrode, Electabuzz, Raichu, whatever, and that's how you jumpstart your team. But it's better just to play Electrode and Electabuzz like normal. But Raichu is probably the only one you'd use Lieutenant Surge with. Raichu's not bad, it's just that it's not exactly good either. So it's like, Lieutenant Surge is super situational, Magneton's super situational, use at your own risk. Seadra, for a stage 1, doing 50 for 3 energies is terrible, but at least you get to pick the target. I would make this 60 damage, so at least it can snipe, like, smaller Pokemon, but 50 doesn't really snipe that many Pokemon. It does snipe, fire types, obviously, because it doesn't apply weakness or resistance, so you can use this to snipe fire types for 70 or less damage, but that's about it. The only way I would say that this is even usable is if you get a Giovanni, and you can get it up to 60 damage to snipe small Pokemon, and 80 damage to snipe fire types. But that's about it. Kingdra is super situational. There's no reason to use Kingdra. I guess you could use it with a Misty deck, but that's really pushing it. Abra, for 1 energy, you can switch with your bench Pokemon. That's a waste of a move, but it's also a waste of a Mon. Because it's like, you could have at least made it to where it does like 10 damage or something, or at least have another ability to where it can, search the deck for a card or something. Something. But no, Abra is just a switch, and it's like, I might as well just leave it on the bench anyway. Zebstrika is a stage 1 with 1 energy for 30 on any Pokemon you choose. 30 is bad, but at least it's 1 energy, so it's slightly better than Kingdra. And Lapras is 1 energy for 20 as a basic Pokemon. That's okay. 1 energy for 20 is okay for a basic. It has a decent amount of health. But the reason why this is an F is because you're supposed to get 3 more water energies for 90. Oh, that's irritating. 4 energies for 90. It really should have been 2 extra water energies. So that way it's for every water energy, it'd be 60. And then it gives you the extra 30 for, thinking ahead, and then it becomes 90 for 3. 90 for 3 is perfectly fine, but 4 for 90 is terrible. 4 energies for 90 is terrible. Even for a basic, that's terrible. I would just use this thing with the 1 energy for 20 damage, like a Haymaker card, and I would just do that, honestly. It's the worst out of all the water types. There's better water types to choose from. Lapras, like, come on, 4 for 90? That's crazy. Otherwise, if it was just 1 for 20, I'd bump it up to C tier, but it's forcing you to go 90. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. Dratini is probably the worst out of all the baby Pokemon. 2 for 40 is fine, but it's 2 random, energies. You have to get 2 different energies just to play this card, and that's just annoying. Call for Family. You literally get a Nidoran male and put it on your bench. No damage. Why does this thing exist? It should really have a 2 energy cost move that does like 60 damage. That would make it better. That way you can search for a Nidoran male 1 turn, and if you don't get a Nidoran Need Arena, you'd be able to do some damage next turn, you know what I'm saying? Magikarp is nice, but doing only 10 damage sucks. It really should have a 3 energy cost move for like 60 damage. That way, if you don't get Gyarados, you still have a chance to hit your opponent for a lot of damage for 3 energies. It's a gamble, but I mean, like, it'd be fun. Snom, 1 energy, 10 damage, 1 energy, 10 damage. Growlithe is here because it has 2 energies for 20 damage as a basic. It's like, come on, man. Same thing. It's like all the same thing. Honestly, these all just need different abilities. Like, Attach should really get you a grass energy to your grass Pokemon. Razor Fin should get you a water energy to your water Pokemon. Gnaw should get you a fire energy to your fire Pokemon. Fighting for your fighting Pokemon. Like, honestly, just make these setup cards. That way they set up your allies, and then the next turn when you evolve them, it feels fair. You know what I'm saying? Same thing for these. It's like, Meowth is like the only good one out of all of these, where it gets you a draw power. The other ones just do 30 damage for 2 energies, and this isn't like IRL card games. It's not like, you know, TCG Live, where you can't change the card, because in real life there's a counterpart that actually exists that you can't change. These are all digital, which means you can change them all. You can give them new moves, and honestly, I would do the same thing for all of these. Specifically, these 3. 60 for 3 energies for a stage 1. Why even bother? This one's only slightly better because it has a 1 for retreat cost. That's it. The rest is just terrible. It's like, come on, man. Next up, you have Rhyhorn and Golett. 3 for 60 is terrible for a basic, but at least it evolves into something better. And then the fossil Pokemon are here because they're just low health, basic Pokemon that you throw on the bench for something else. That's about it. Now, these are Pokemon I would actually fight with. You know, 1 energy for 20, that's not bad for a basic Pokemon. Specifically, if they have 60 HP, it's a lot better. You know, if the HP gets higher, it's a lot better. And it goes better and better and better. And I like that. Growl for reducing 20 damage is perfectly fine, because if you have all these other Pokemon that only do 20 damage, you resist that. So Cubone is actually a little bit better than most of these. But the one that's the best is Petalii. For 10 damage, you heal 10 damage. That's really good, because not only can you survive 3 hits from a 20 damage card, but you can also make it to where you last longer. So if they hit you for 20, you're down to 40, you heal 10, you're at 50. Hit you for 20, you're down to 30, you heal 10, it's up to 40. And then you get hit again, and then you're back up to fucking 30, and then you back up to 20. And then they have to hit you one more time to get you. But then you can heal with another card, making Petalii survive even longer. So if you're fighting against like a weak 20 damage card, you heal that damage back, and then you can evolve Petalii later to get your advantage. So healing is really good in this game, because if you can heal enough damage, you basically survive. Now, 70 HP is better than 60, and 20 damage is still better. So yeah, a stage 1 with 1 energy for 30 is pretty good, but it's actually better just to have extra effects, like being able to poison your opponent, being able to look at the top card of your deck, being able to you know, get an energy. These are definitely better, because by looking at the top card of your deck, you can make a move next turn, figuring out what you want to do next turn. This is technically a Haymaker, because it's a basic Pokemon that has 1 energy cost for damage, but it's not strong enough to be Haymaker. It's close, but it really should be 30 for 1 energy, but that's okay. 2 for 40 is not great, but it is better than the 3 for 60 down there. For the Ivysaur Charmeleon combo, so yeah, I'd say 2 for 40 is perfectly fine. But having more HP than the other ones is better. So 1 energy for 40 is better. 1 energy for 40 is better. You know, all these are better. But what makes them beat is their evolutions, because Tandemo doing 30 for 1, then you evolve it into Electrike, give it another energy for 40, and then you evolve it into its final form, and then you do a very large amount of damage. So honestly, Electrike is better than all these. Nidorino is pretty good too, because its evolution is only 3 energies for a very good attack, so 2 for 40 is perfectly fine. 2 for 40 is fine, and then it evolves into something even bigger, and then it does even more damage, so hell yeah. Starmie, 1 for 40 is good, and then 90 HP, that's pretty good. Immune to all damage on a coin flip, heck yeah. Even if it doesn't do damage, I mean, you're immune to damage. Discard an energy to do 30, that's perfectly fine. It is annoying, but it's fine. Getting an energy from the energy zone is fine. 30 for 1 is good, but the low HP makes it bad. But that's okay, it evolves. Squirtle and Bulbasaur 2 for 40 is not perfect, but this is basically the baseline for a Stage 1 basic. You know, it's a basic Pokemon. So having 2 for 40 is perfectly fine. So anything above that is going to do the same thing. So yeah, 1 for 30 is fine for a Stage 1 as long as it has a better evolution, and it does. So Frogadier is technically better than all these because these are all Stage 1s that don't evolve any further right now, which means Frogadier is better. Skiddo from 1 for 40 is really good. Coin Flip does nothing, that's bad. But if you get the Coin Flip, then hell yeah. 2 for 40 is perfectly fine. 2 for 60 is really good, especially since it's a basic Pokemon with neutral as its type. You know, a normal Pokemon, meaning that it gets colorless, which is really nice. It's colorless, it's not neutral, not all that. It's colorless, remember that. Anyway, so yeah, colorless Pokemon definitely get an advantage because you can use any energy with that Pokemon and you can play it with any deck you want. So these definitely get advantage, but I say Clefable's better just because 1 energy for 40 and 100 HP is better than 2 energies for 60 and 100 HP. I'm just saying. 1 energy for 10 damage, but your opponent can't activate supporters. Pretty nice. 3 for 80 is not great, but then again, it's 2 different types of energies, so it's like it makes it even worse for a Stage 1. Stage 1 for 2 energies for 70, this is what Lieutenant Surge is for. Just use it for this guy. Because the idea is, if you have a bench that's getting set up, you can play into Electrode. It's a cheap Stage 1 that only needs 2 energies. So if you have a Magneton, you use the Lieutenant Surge, move the Magneton's energy, put an energy on Electrode, and then bada bing, bada boom, it's ready to go. 70 for 3 is not great, but it's 3 colorless. 3 for 70 is perfectly fine if you have 120 HP. 3 for 70 is fine, you have 100 HP and you evolve into something better. 2 for 70 is fine. 1 for 60 potential is good, especially when you have 130 HP. This is definitely the better grass type, even though it's not perfect. I mean, 1 energy for 60 potential is pretty nice, but 1 energy for 30 is pretty good too. So yeah, it's definitely a good bond. 1 for 30 is pretty good. 1 for 30 is pretty good. This one doesn't evolve, this one does, so this one gets slightly higher up. Because this one doesn't evolve, this one's base. This is basically a simple Haymaker card. But then again, the other Haymakers can evolve in the future, so it depends on what happens. 2 for 30 for Paralysis is pretty good. 2 for 60 is pretty good. 2 for 60 is pretty good, you know, same thing. Having a lot more HP by 10 points is better, so less damage for more HP is better. But this one has 100 HP, and it does 70, so it's better than all these other mons down here. 2 for 70 is good, but because it is a Steel type, it is better than Sandslash, because Fire is a very obvious weakness, but there's not a lot of Fire decks. They're afraid of the Water decks, so playing Bisharp, being one of the few Steel types that is available, I'd say it is better, because there's only like 3 Steel types in this game, and that's Bisharp, someone else, and then I believe 1 other card. Not a lot of Steel types. Having a lot of HP saves this card. 60 damage for 3 is terrible, but 120 HP saves it. But then again, there's another card that does almost as much, the same amount of damage, just less HP. Then there's one that makes you discard an energy for a coin flip, so yeah, that's even better. 140 for 3 energies is amazing, but sadly you have to discard all the energies. This is what Lieutenant Surge is mostly for, but I wouldn't recommend it. Honestly, there just needs to be a clause here that's like discard 2 energies or maybe just 1 energy, you know, something like that, and that would be better. But discarding all energies is terrible. Maybe they could have a stadium that's like Power Plant, and Power Plant will give you 1 extra electrical energy per turn. That'd be nice. And then you do the same thing with like a beach and then a magma basin and then a, you know, other things, and you get 1 extra energy per turn. And that would speed up the game slightly more, but you'd have to play a stadium, so then you'd have stadium breaker cards that would get rid of stadiums. You get the idea. But like, there should be stadiums in the game, and everyone should have a stadium, to be honest. Like, everyone should have a stadium. I hate that you can only play 1 stadium at a time. I feel like 2 at a time is perfectly fine. You know, having 2 field spells is fine, but like only being able to play 1 field spell is annoying, so yeah. Yeah, get the idea. I would like it to be multiple stadiums. 70 for 3, perfectly fine, especially since you resist 10 damage. That is what saves Cloyster, is that 10 damage resistance, because that basically helps with a lot of the problems that Pokemon have, which is taking too much damage, but this makes it to where it takes less damage, so it's good. 1 energy for 30 damage to a basic Pokemon in the... no, sorry, 1 energy for 30 damage on a bench Pokemon. For a simple basic with 80 HP, yeah, that's so much better than the other F tiers, because they're stage 1s versus this basic Pokemon. And even then, it's still outclassed by these stage 1s with 40 damage for 1 energy that evolve into something even better. So, yeah. Finally, we're in the B tier. This is where I think the meta is truly at. So, Mr. Mime, 2 energies for 30 is not great, but it is a basic Pokemon that resists 20 damage, which is pretty good because in the basic part of the game, in the beginning, you can just play Mr. Mime. It's basically a wall, and it resists 20 damage, so any weak Pokemon will deal even less damage. Anything that does 40 is only going to deal 20, which means Mr. Mime is survivable, which means you can use Potion to keep it alive. It's just a really decent wall. However, Helicotisk does 40 damage for 2 energies, but does a coin flip. If it gets that coin flip, it does 80 damage. It is a stage 1. It does require 2 colorless energy, but I'm going to say this one is not as good as the other ones in the future, due to the fact that, well, who's going to play this card? it just doesn't get play. It could basically one-shot an Articuno, but are you going to play this one? No, you're going to play other things. I like Heliodisc. It looks like a decent card, but I mean, there's better electric types. 100 damage for 3 energies is good, and then you do 30 to one of your bench. It's like, who cares? You do 30 to one of your bench, whatever. 60 damage for 3 energies is not great, but you get a coin flip, and if you get that heads, you paralyze the opponent. That's perfect, because paralysis in this game is really good. 40 for 1 energy for 100 health is really good. So, this one, if you have 2 energies to spare, you put it on this thing, and if you get an opponent with any damage counters, you do 70 damage for 2 energies. That's good, especially since it's a basic Pokemon. So what you could do, technically, is put this with a specific deck that does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Now they all have damage counters, which means this thing is going to be dealing 70 for 2 energies. So you basically just, dominate. 60 for 3 energies is not horrible, but the best part about this card is that it heals your team, which is important. Okay, so 3 for 50 is not good, but you get a coin flip, and if you get that heads, you put them to sleep. And that's an ability, which means this thing does not have to be in the active spot. It can actually be in the bench. So it's a stage 1 bench that can flip a coin for sleep. Hell yeah. 1 energy, 70 damage. Pretty good. Pretty good. 1 energy for 30 damage, but you poison. That is better than a stage 2, so you have to evolve it twice to get that 70, versus a 1 evolution for poison, which is better. A 1 evolution for sleep, however, is slightly better than that, and it does 40 for 2, which is fine, just like all the other ones down there. It's like 2 for 40 is not perfect for stage 1, but it puts them to sleep, so that is technically better. 4 for 70 is awful. But he has so much HP that this thing is just a wall. Honestly, I would buff this thing to where if it had a coin flip ability, flip a coin, if heads, deal 120 more damage. That way for 4 energies, you get a massive, 190, which knocks out the entire roster, but you gotta get the coin flip, and you gotta put 4 energies on this thing, which is almost impossible. Or have a stadium that says, hey, if you got a neutral, or not neutral, if you have a colorless Pokemon in your active spot, put 2 energies from the energy zone. You can only activate this card once per turn, and you have to discard a card to activate this card. You know what I'm saying? Something simple like that. Discard a card, put 2 energies on your neutral Pokemon, or colorless Pokemon. You get the idea. Colorless, it's colorless. That would be nice for a stadium, to just give your colorless Pokemon more energy, because honestly that's the only problem with colorless Pokemon, is that a lot of them have a lot of energy for nothing, and it's like, make it to where you can get some energies on them. Executor EX, 1 fucking energy for 40 damage, but you flip a coin. If you get the heads, you do 80 damage for 1 energy. That's a whole lot better than Beedrill, because it's a stage 2. That's a whole lot better than a lot of other Pokemon. And if you don't even get the coin flip, you do 40 for 1 energy. That's pretty good for a stage 1, and I said that before, 1 energy for 40 is good. But what makes this even better is that it has 160 HP, and you can play Erica with this card. Erica basically saves all the Grass-type Pokemon since it heals them for 50. Since there's no Pokemon Center, this is basically the only way to heal Pokemon guaranteed. So yeah, being able to heal your team for 58 damage, hell yeah. Hell yeah, especially since it's only for Grass types, you make a Grass type deck with Erica, bada bing bada boom, Venusaur deck exists. Flip a coin. If heads, you deal 80. If tails, you do nothing. This is like Executor, but a lot more risky. But your opponent gets less prize cards, so I say Seeking is slightly better. 4 energies for 80 damage on a stage 2 Pokemon is awful. It's dumb as hell. Why 4 energies for 80? It really should be 4 energies for 100 damage. But you know, it's fine. You want to know why? Because he heals for 30. That basically means if anything hits this thing for like 80 damage, maybe even 100 damage, you heal 30 off that. Yeah, this thing's surviving a lot of hits. And if you play an Erica, which 50 plus 30, that's, 80, you can basically make all damage that this thing takes nothing. And thus, Venusaur not only survives, but it also does 80 damage, which means that you hit really hard, and you heal for all that health. Now, 4 energies is a bit costly, but there's a card that makes this play even better, so we will say it's pretty good. 3 for 60, not bad, not good, it's just kind of there. But it also heals for 30 and has 130 HP, so it takes the Venusaur method, where it is costly with the energy, but it heals itself, it does a decent amount of damage, so yeah, it works. Now here's the question, do you want to switch with a move or switch with an ability? It's a stage 2 switch with an ability, or a stage 1 switch with a move. One requires 3 for 70, one requires 2 for 70. They both have the same amount of HP. One is a colorless, one is a fighting. It's just up to you. What do you want to do? Honestly, I would probably go with the Pidgeot here, just because it's colorless. It's easy to get out, easy to get the energies on, easy to switch your opponent whenever you feel like it. But then again, Grab the Lock would be fun for taking down some normal types every so often, because the only thing fighting is good against is normal, sadly. But otherwise, yeah, it depends on what you want. Parasect is definitely the better out of all of the grass types below, due to the fact that 3 for 80 is perfect for a stage 1. That is perfection. That is what a fucking 3 energy cost move should be. For the bare minimum, it should be 80 for 3. That's fair. Now, the extra energy for healing, that's up to you if you really think that's worth it. The coin flip for 80, that's up for you if you really think that's worth it. But I think it's worth it just to have a guaranteed damage output that is 80. Because it's 2 hits to knock out. It has 120 HP, which means the only thing that's going to knock this thing out is anything that does over 90 damage, and if you put 20 on top, anything that does 100 damage and 20 on top of that. So if a fire type does 100, yeah, this thing's gonna get knocked out. But if it only does 90 or less, you're surviving, and you use Erica next turn to survive. If you have a Butterfree, you can heal that too. So yeah, Parasect basically survives. Same thing for Slowbro, except Slowbro has more HP, is also a stage 1 with 3 energies, so it's the same thing as Parasect, but I'm going to actually put Parasect slightly higher, just because Erica exists. 3 for 80 is perfectly fine. It's a colorless, so yeah. So, do what you want to do there. But then again, Parasect is not as good as Vileplume. For 1 extra evolution for the same amount of damage, you can get Sleep and more HP. I'd say Vileplume is pretty busted. Because not only is it like Parasect, but it also gets the sleep off. Which that's the important part, because sleep requires a coin flip. If you miss the coin flip, guess what? You lose. And that is really good. For 140 HP, for a stage 1, however, EX Wigglytuff is definitely better, because 3 colorless for 80 damage, and sleep is better than 2 energies, a stage 2, and basically the same thing. So it's up to you. Pick your poison. Who you want more? You can heal with Vileplume though, so you know what? That's actually slightly better. Due to the fact that you can heal with Erica. Wigglytuff is definitely really good, but you know, healing, brother, healing. Now we got Parasect, which is the start of Haymaker. Haymaker is as follows. Anything that deals a massive amount of damage, turn 1 for about 1 to 2 energies. Now you can have coin flips, you can have abilities, you can have anything like that. But if you can't beat through these on your first goddamn turn, then yeah, they win. So let's start with Parasect. Pinsir. There you go. Hey, Parasect. Pinsir. For 2 energies, flip 2 coins. 50 damage for each heads. That's really good. Specifically, the 2 energy cost for 50 is really nice, but also the 2 coin flips for a potential 100 is even better. This is a turn 1, or not turn 1, but it is a turn 2 breaker. Because you throw it out on the bench, you put an energy on it, you wait a turn, you put another energy on it, flip 2 coins. If you're lucky and you get the 2 heads, you get 100 damage, knocking out half the roster. If you don't get lucky and you only get a 50, well, at least you did some damage. And if you don't get lucky at all, you do nothing. So this is definitely lower in the Haymaker strategy. 3 for 130, you flip a coin. If heads, you hit. If tails, yeah, fuck yourself. 3 energies for 130 is not bad. But goddamn, that coin flip really throws you off. I will put this lower than Pinsir. Just because Pinsir is guaranteed for a 50 for 1 heads, and if you get no heads with Moltres, you lose. And it is 3 energies technically, but 3 energies for 130 is not bad. 2 energies for 100 is definitely better, so it's the potential. Thunder Punch. This is where Haymaker gets a little bit more serious. For 2 energies, you do 40. You flip a coin. If you get a heads, you do 80. However, if you miss that heads, you take 20 damage. High risk, high reward. For 80 damage, you knock out almost half the roster. And if it's a basic Pokemon, you know, you knock it out anyway. So, yeah, I'd say this is pretty fair. Plus, if you don't get the coin flip, it does 40 to any water type. Water types typically take 20 more damage. That means you can knock out any basic Pokemon that is water type, deal lots of damage, and if you deal the 80, the 20 extra for the water type, bada bing bada boom, you knock it out. Kangaskhan for 2 coin flips. If any of them are heads, you do 30 or 60 damage for 1 energy. 30 for 1 energy is perfectly fine, but getting that potential 60 is even better, because that knocks out all the basics. Well, most of them at least. Other Haymakers will survive, but if they're not a Haymaker, if they're like a Magikarp or something weak, guess what? You knock it out. For a wall, that's really good. And the potential for 60 is really good. 1 for 30 is good. 1 for 30 basically just means, hey, if your opponent's active Pokemon is not evolved yet, you knock it out. And if it's a weakness, guess what? You knock it out. Really good stuff. 1 for 30 is really good. 2 for 50 is not bad, specifically if you have Blaine, because Blaine makes this a 2 for 80. 2 for 80 is busted as hell, since that knocks out most of the roster, and it knocks out half the grass types, so yeah, 2 for 80 is really good. I like Magmar. But 1 for 40 is definitely way better. Farfetch'd is a gimmick and a half, but for 2 hits for a knockout, that's pretty good. Giovanni gives you 10 extra damage to all your attacks. That is before, sorry, I was thinking about the times 2 weakness, but basically you just add 10 damage onto any damage that you have. So I forgot the weaknesses are still just plus 20 now. It's no longer times 2. If it was times 2, this would be even more effective because you get 20 damage, but no, it's just plus 10. So plus 10 to all your damage is still pretty good, since 10 damage can be a game changer. So obviously Magmar doing 30 more damage is really good, but to a Ninetales and a Rapidash, Rapidash can potentially hit 70 for 1 energy, and Ninetales can hit 120 for 2 energies, which is really good. You just discard an energy off Ninetales and you can do 120, and if it's a grass type, you do 140. So yeah, Ninetales is really strong. Jinx doing 30 doesn't sound very good for 2 energies at first, but then you realize for every energy your opponent has, you do 20 more damage. That is 2 energies for 70 damage. If they have 2 energies themselves. 70 damage is nothing to scoff at. But if they have 3 energies, you do 90. So, if you look at all the previous evolutions where they need 3 energies to do anything, yeah, 90 damage is looking pretty nice. Jinx is a really good card. I just wish that it did 30 more damage instead of just 20, but it's still a good card. 2 for 90 is really nice, especially since it's a stage 1. But then again, 2 for a potential 160. Yeah, I could see that, Jolteon. Flip 4 coins. For every heads, you do 40 damage. That's 5 different chances. One of the chances being nothing, one of the chances being 40, one of the chances being 80, 120, then 160, respectively. So that is a lot of damage for 2 energies. However, I'd say Lilligant's better. You can take a grass energy in your energy zone and attach it to your grass bench Pokemon. That's really good, because if Lilligant's already set up, you can set up your other grass-type Pokemon, specifically your Vileplumes, your Parasects, your Venusaurs, whoever you want to set up at the time. Honestly, this is a whole lot better than just, dealing 50 damage for 2. So being able to set up your allies is actually way better than you think. And honestly, I'm going to put this right behind Tangela. You'll see why. 50 for poison is really good, especially for 2 energies. 1 for 40 for avoiding all damage on a coin flip is really nice. 4 for 100 isn't great, but it is a stage 1, so I'll let it pass. 3 for 60 is not good, and it only gives psychic energies to your active psychic Pokemon, so that's also not good. I don't know why it's only active psychic Pokemon. It really should have been bench as well, but, whatever. Honestly, we need more Gardevoirs and Magnetons to be more like the ones in the fucking actual TCG, where they get you a psychic energy to all Pokemon, and you just get to pick. Honestly, the bench is more important than the active spot, so it's saying active zone is really annoying. Especially since it only does 60 for 3 anyway. So it's like, goddamn. So yeah, Lilligant is better than all these bitches. But you know who's better than Lilligant? Tangela. 2 energies for 40. If 2 energies for 50 for a stage 1 is good, 2 energies for 40 for a basic Pokemon is good. But on top of that, it also heals 10 damage. Which means you can play Erica with this thing, and anything that does 70 damage or less won't be able to knock it out. Because it can heal for that 10, and Erica can heal for 60, you can potentially get all of your HP back from any moves that are 60 damage or less. 70 just means it survives and it does another bout of damage. So yeah, Tangela is really good. The only downside being it is 2 for 40. But that's about it, that's the only downside. I really like Tangela. I think it works really good. Due to the fact that it heals itself, does 40 for 2, is a basic Pokemon, very simple. But also, Erica exists, so it heals even more. Grass types typically have more advantage because of the healing, but I can't wait to see what they do with Tangrowth, honestly. Because if this thing has Absorb for healing 10, Tangrowth is going to have Giga Drain for healing 40. I'm just saying, 3 energies for like at least 100 damage, and you get to heal 40. I think Tangrowth would do that. As an EX and a regular card. As a regular card, it'd be 3 for 80 and heal 40, and then it would be EX where it heals 60 for 100 damage. You know what I'm saying? That'd be epic. That'd be nice. Or, if they were really, really, really smart, they'd make it to where Tangrowth is a supplier similar to Lilligant, where for 3 energies, it would heal itself for 10 and supply a grass energy to one of the benched grass Pokemon for 3 to 4 energies. That would make sense to me. Anyway, Misty, flip a coin. If heads, you get a water energy to one of your Pokemon. Now, the reason why I say 1 coin instead of multiple coins is because Misty's a massive gamble. You have to flip multiple coins to get multiple energies to a lot of water types that need a lot of energies. Yeah, if anything needs 3 energies, Misty's not your bet. Misty's just a gamble, and I don't like it. Because if you miss 1 fucking coin flip, she does nothing. It really should have been choose a water Pokemon, flip 4 coins. For every heads, you put a water energy. For every tails, you get nothing. You get the idea. Because four coins. If you get 2 heads, you get 2 energies. 1 heads, you get 1 energy. 3 heads, you get 3 energies. You get the idea. It's enough for everybody, but also it's 4 coins, so you have a chance. You have a chance for victory. But no, this thing says the second you get a tails, nothing happens. Fun. Fun. And it's only for water Pokemon. It really should have been for all Pokemon. If it was for all Pokemon, it would be much better. Okay, 120 for 4 energies. Not horrible for stage 1, but it also resists 20, so I'm going to say that's pretty strong. This is the last steel type you'll ever see. Honestly, I feel like they need to add more steel types, like Aggron and Steelix, and of course, Magnezone. But you know, that's fine. 2 for 30, not very good. Especially since it relies on your bench. And because this game is limited to 20 cards, your bench is not going to be full all the time. But if you do potentially get a full bench, it's 2 for 90 for 120 health, and on a basic. But you know what's better than that? This thing. This thing does the exact same thing for 3 energies. However, this thing is a neutral Pokemon that has no EX on it, so you get less prize cards to your opponent. And it's very easy to set up because it relies on any energy, so you can throw it in any deck versus just an electric deck. Yeah, Pikachu kind of fucked himself, but that's okay. 4 for 100. Now that is interesting. But discarding a random energy guaranteed? That's just mean. Discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. If they were setting up a Pokemon and you managed to switch that Pokemon in and use its 100 damage to almost knock it out, and then discard an energy from that Mon, it is defenseless. It has nothing. If it already was set up and they had to put an energy on it, it'd be fine. But if they were setting up a Pokemon, you switch that Pokemon in, and then you use Gyarados to hit it, it ain't doing nothing no more. It might as well just be a wall. Gyarados is really good. It's a stage 1, requires 4 energies, so sadly you have to use Misty with this thing, but hey, you know, the potential. The potential. 1 energy, flip 3 coins. For every heads you get a fire energy to your fire Pokemon. Pretty good. But 3 for 70 is terrible. At least you got the benched fire Pokemon down for an energy. That's honestly what Tangrowth should do as well, is for 1 energy, you know, get some coin flips and be able to supply your grass types. And then for 3 energies, do 180, you know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Come on, man. Give me a Tangrowth X. Come on. Anyway, shut up, Ember. Anyway, back to this card. You flip 3 coins, you get energies. That's what makes Moltres EX good. It's a wall that gets you a bunch of coin flips. And if it survives, you switch it out into another Pokemon like Arcanine that's already set up, and you do 100 damage. Really good. 100 damage for 3 is really good, but 100 damage for 80 is not that good. But if it gets hit, it does 20 damage to that attacking Pokemon. Now that is really good. Because you do the 20 damage to that attacking Pokemon, that also means that your 80 is applied, so yeah, you technically do 100 with this thing. And it has more HP, so Poliwrath is technically better than Arcanine. Mewtwo, for 120 damage, for 4 energies, discard 2. That's pretty nice for basic, but Charizard did it better. Charizard just requires fire energies. You get that with Moltres EX. You do 150, you knock out half the roster. Or actually, the entire roster, almost. There's like only 6 cards that resist that, so yeah, Charizard just wins. Knocks out like everything. And funnily enough, it's also Fire Spin, which is what the original Charizard did. So honestly, that's really cool. I like how it's a callback to the original. The original Charizard basically knocked out everything on the field, and the only thing it couldn't knock out was, I believe, later sets when they actually added 140 HP and 130 HP. So yeah, Charizard basically dominated for a while. But in this set, there is a couple cards that survive it. There is a couple ways to stop this Charizard, and that is to switch into something that does a lot of damage. For 3 energies, flip 4 coins. For every heads, do 50. That is power. because for 4 coin flips you have potential for 200 damage, but it is 4 coins. There is that high risk of only doing 100, so it's up to you. It depends on how you feel. If you feel like 100 is worth it, if you feel like 50 is worth it, if you feel like 150 is worth it, if you feel like doing nothing is worth it, go for it. It's 5 different outcomes with 20% chance each, so you got a 20% chance to do nothing. That's pretty high, but you know, yeah. 60 for 2 energies. Not bad. But then it also switches any Pokemon you want into the open field. You get to pick the Pokemon that switches, not your opponent, which means you could technically switch in something that's allergic to grass and do a whopping 80 damage, allowing you to knock it out. Honestly, Victory Bell's really strong. But Venusaur EX is stronger. For 100 damage for 4 energies. Heal for 30. That's pretty fucking good for 190 HP. Jesus, this thing is a brick. The 150 doesn't even kill it, because it only does 170, and then you heal for that 30, which knocks that damage down to 140 damage, and then you knock it down even further with an Erica, and because you did 100 damage, if you hit first, the Charizard loses. If the Charizard hit first, well yeah, Venusaur EX dies. So yeah, it just depends who goes first, Venusaur or Charizard. If Venusaur goes first, Charizard loses. If this thing goes first, Venusaur loses. So it's up to you. Earth from the energy zone to a Golem or an Onix. Yeah, that's pretty strong, specifically because Onix only requires 3 for 70. And eventually it'll evolve into Steelix, and if Steelix requires only 1 Earth energy, or 1 Steel energy, and for every Earth energy it does more damage, yeah, this is going to be potential when Steelix comes up. I think Onix is pretty good as a brick wall. This is definitely the Haymaker top card, because it's a basic Pokemon that requires 3 energies for 70. You can use Brock to get that energy pretty quickly, which means turn 2 you can do 70. Pretty good. 90 damage for 3 energies. Not bad, but doing 80 damage for 2 energies is better, because you do 60 for the first hit, use your ability, you do 80 now. Pretty strong. 110 for 3 is good, you just discard an energy, not bad for a stage 1, but also 130 is better than that. It does require more energies, but you know, 130 is better. So technically speaking, Center Scorch is better. For 40 damage for 2 energies, that's not very good, but if you are hit whatsoever, you do 100 damage. Wow. Okay, that's power. 100 for 2? Bro, I like that. 3 for 100 is not bad. 3 for 80 is okay, but then you get the paralysis in, which makes it really strong. 2 for 60 is strong, they can't retreat. 3 for 80 is strong, but if you get the 2 fucking head flips, you do 160. Holy shit, Kingler. Good god, 3 for 160. And it knocks out every Charizard in the game. Yeah, Kingler's pretty OP. But there is the catch of, you have to get the 2 coin flips, so if you don't, you only do 100, and thus you're knocked out next turn. 1 for 50 is not bad, but your opponent can't play supporters, so that makes it even better. Get a Muck or a Weezing in the active spot. Weezing poisons, Muck does more damage if they're poisoned. You get the idea of the Koga deck, but I'd rather just play the Weezing and use it like a Haymaker card, which basically means it's on the field, 1 energy for 60. Where was I? Oh yes, Weezing, Haymaker basically. For 1 energy, since you do 30 and you can poison the Pokemon, I feel like Weezing is definitely the best Haymaker out of all these, since Koga can get him out. The problem is that if you cannot get Weezing out with Koga, it's completely pointless. It's like a really pointless card to have. So Koga is definitely situational, but if you can get it out on time, you'd have 2 Weezing, 2 Muck, 2 Grimer, 2 Weezing, Coughing. There you go. And if you can't get your Weezing out using Coughing, you can use Koga to get Weezing out, and then that's the Haymaker, and then you'd use Muck as like a backup. Because if Weezing goes down, at least you poison the opponent, which means Muck does 130. Okay, 3 energy for 120, not bad at all, especially since it's just a 3-stage evolution, you can easily get it out, not too difficult. Golem with 4 energies for 150, that's debatable, but then again, Brock exists, which means you're able to get this golem powered up pretty quickly turn 3. So you throw out your Geodude, you put an energy on it, hit him with 20. Throw out your Graveler, put an energy on it, wait a turn. Throw out your Golem, throw an energy on it, Brock that bitch, bada bang, bada boom, 150 automatic. And you basically knock out the opponent before they knock you out. 150 knocks out almost everything in the game. So yeah, I'd say Golem's pretty good. 90 for 3. That's debatable on if that is good or not, but the thing that makes his power is that poison. Because you throw on the 90, you poison the opponent, next turn they die if they're 100 HP. If they're 110 HP, they die on your turn when it's your turn. Unless they can check up the poison, you're basically set. But you know what's better than that? Nidoqueen. I'd say Nidoqueen is a low S tier, high A tier kind of card. Because how it works is if you have any Nidokings on your bench, you do 50 more damage for 3 energies. Doing 80 is not terrible for stage 2. It's not good, but it's also not terrible, especially since it does 50 more damage for every Nidoking. So if you have a Nidoking and a Nidoqueen on the field, one in the bench, one on the active spot, you can do 50 more damage with the 80. So 80 plus 50, that's 130 right there, I believe. So this one over here is 120, this one's 130. So you do 130, but if you have another Nidoking, if somehow you have 2 Nidokings on the bench, that's 180. That's strong as hell. So let's say you have 2 Nidokings in your starting hand, you get a Nidorino, you evolve your Nidorine Rans and all that stuff. You use Pokeballs to get the rest of your Nidoqueen cards that you need. Let's say you start with a Nidoking, start with a Nidoqueen in your hand, and you have Nidorina and Nidorino in your hand and all that stuff. You have almost everything you need. You just use 1 energy to get out the Nidoran male. You evolve, you do all that stuff, get all this stuff ready to go, and bada bing, bada boom, you have Nidoqueen and a Nidoking. You do 130 theoretically on turn 3 if you get all your cards correctly. That means you do 130 turn 3, and that's pretty good. But then if you get another Nidoking somehow, you do 180. So potential Nidoqueen stomp, potential. But the 130 is your main bet, because 130 knocks out a lot of the cards in this deck. I'd say Nidoking and Queen is pretty strong, since Nidorina female can search out Nidoran male. You can basically set up your bench, evolve it, have 2 energies for 40, and then evolve it into Nidoqueen for that one big ol' 80 damage on top of the 50 more if you have Nidoking. So yeah, I'd say Nidoqueen's pretty strong. Sabrina, switch your opponent's active Pokemon. Yep, your opponent is forced to switch, and on top of that, if they switch to something weak, you knock it out. Sabrina is definitely really strong. Arcanine, 120 for 3 energies is really strong, and then you hurt yourself for only 20. That's still a really strong card. So like regular Arcanine, this one is pretty strong. Mewtwo for 120 was pretty okay for 4 energies, but then you make it 150 for 4 energies, and now you have a fucking heavy hitter. It's a heavy hitter. For 2 energies it does 50 anyway, so it's basically a Magmar. So it's like Haymaker, so it starts off pretty good, and then it gets even stronger with that extra energy. Yeah, I'd say Mewtwo EX is really strong. Charizard for 3 energies doing 60 is not great, but that fucking 200 energy, 200 damage for 4 energies, yeah, I'm taking a risk for that. I'll take the risk. That knocks out everything. Alright, those are the decent S tiers at the bottom, but let's talk about the main S tiers. Caterpie, this is your strongest grass-type Pokemon right here. And you might be thinking to yourself, why? It gets you 1 random grass Pokemon from the deck to your hand. That is any grass-type Pokemon. If you have a Lilligant in your hand, but you don't have a Lileep, and you know Lileep's in the deck, and you know that you already have everything on the field, guess what? It searches the Lileep, you put it on the bench, you put an energy, and next turn you have a Lilligant, you throw that Lilligant out, because obviously the Caterpie's gonna die, which means Lilligant supplies your team. Hell yeah. Let's say you know there's a Venusaur in the deck, and you already have 2 Ivysaurs on the bench, you already have all that stuff ready to go. That means you can search for Venusaur, you already know Venusaur's in there, you already know you're getting a Venusaur, bada bing. But let's say you know that there's a Venusaur and an Ivysaur. Well, now you have a 50-50 to get what you want. There you go. Same thing with other grass-type Pokemon like Executor EX and regular Executor, where you have a chance to get them into your hand, and that could be potential, because if you can potentially get that Executor, you can beat the game. If you potentially get your Beedrill or potentially get your Butterfree, if you know there's only one in the deck, then yeah, you can potentially get that. So yeah, it is a really strong card, because even though it is random, you're still guaranteed a card out of it, which is really good. Guaranteed a card, but it's random. Honestly, I would take that gamble. If you know what's in your deck, you know what's going to happen. And if you have Oak, you can thin the deck, making it even easier to get the cards you want. So yeah, potential, power. But you know what's even better than that? Being able to heal yourself for 50 damage every single fucking turn. Yep, 1 energy, 50 damage. You heal yourself for the same amount of damage, which means potentially, if they hit you for 100, you knock off half of that. 100 damage is pretty fucking common, and being able to get rid of half of that damage, you survive another turn and you deal 50 damage. Kabutops is not perfect, but being able to heal yourself for 50 every single time, and then you can maybe potion every so often, yeah, Kabutops is survivability right there. And for 1 fucking energy, you're not losing anything. You're just 1 energying this guy, and you can also throw out Kabuto for 1 energy as well. So it's a stage 1 for 40, and then it's 50. Definitely lots of damage there, definitely potential, definitely a lot of healing. Healing in this game is really strong. But being able to shuffle your opponent's card into the deck for a stage 1 with 2 energies, shut up. Clear their board, just constantly throw them back in the deck. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't do nothing. You keep shuffling them into the deck. There's nothing they can do. They just constantly get shuffled back into the deck. And all the energies attached to them, guess what? Gone. Waste of energy. There you go. The only way to counter Aerodactyl is to throw out a useless basic Pokemon and just set up another Pokemon to knock it out. 100 is easy to knock out, but if you can't knock it out, it fucks with you. And that's a coin flip too. That's a coin flip for a shuffle. You don't get any prize cards out of that, but it's still worth your time. Just being able to fuck with your opponent on a coin flip. Yeah, it's annoying, but it works. But you know what's better than that? Making your opponent unable to attack. Yep. For 70 damage for 3 energies, that's not very good. But making your opponent unable to attack, that's pretty strong. They're forced to switch. They're forced to switch out, try to get something else on the field, try to set up on another card. And for only 3 energies, 2 of which can be anything, that's pretty fucking strong for any deck. All you gotta do is just give it 1 water and 2 of any energy that you want, and bada bing bada boom, Amistar gets 70 damage, and on top of that, they can't attack next turn. Amistar is really good. Blastoise. If this Pokemon has at least 2 extra water energies, this is for both Blastoises, you get to do 60 more damage. So that's 5 energy for 160 damage. Potential. The fucking power on this fucker right here. Now, you can do the 3 for 80 or 3 for 100. That's still pretty strong. But if you put 2 more goddamn energies on this thing, it does even more damage. And for every Charizard, it knocks him out as Blastoise EX. Blastoise EX knocks out both Charizards, and the regular Blastoise knocks out the vanilla Charizard, which means either one is good. You have to just pick which one you want. Honestly, I like that. One does 160 to regular Charizard, and one does 180 to regular Charizard. So, yep. I like that. That's power right there. That is some power and a half. For just 5 energies, you do fucking a whole bunch of damage. Now, you might be thinking like, oh, well, that's hard to get to. Well, Misty exists. If you're lucky with Misty, boom, you get the power-up Blastoise. Now, you don't even have to do that. You can just constantly throw energies on it, and it would be at 3 energies for 100, so that's perfectly fine. And you throw 2 energies on there later on. It's a massive 180 HP Pokemon, so it's going to survive 1 or 2 hits. The only thing it can't survive is a 200 Blast, but they have to get 4, you have to get 5. You use Misty, you got the potential. Blastoise is definitely strong as hell. But then you get even stronger. Alakazam, 3 energies. For every energy they have, you 30 more damage. That's potential 90 more damage on a 60, which is 150. So you do 150 to everything, that's like every single fucking health. That's everybody. The only thing it doesn't knock out is some of the EXs with 160 or more health. Alakazam is strong. Alakazam hit hard. Ditto can hit harder though. Ditto can have any energy on it. You can throw on anything on this thing. You can do as many energies as possible. However, there is a catch. It needs the necessary energy. So you have to potentially mimic your opponent's energy in order to use Ditto, which there's potential there. I can see the potential, so I'm gonna throw it up there. I'm gonna recognize that potential, but some of it is just like colorless energy. Some of it is just like throwing on some colorlesses. So honestly, like, it is worth the risk. It is worth the risk if you don't have the energy count, but still, it's like you use any attack you want. You can even use things like Surf. You can use things like fucking Call a Friend, you know, whatever. You can use whatever you want with this fucking thing. Even the 1 energy Beedrill attack for 70, you can use that. And you can use the Moltres Energy Surge Inferno Dance. So if you don't have your Moltres EX and you have Ditto, you just use Ditto to copy your opponent's Moltres EX. So there is a chance for this thing to mimic and mirror whatever move you want. So there is a lot of potential there. But you have to mimic the exact energy count. So if they need a Psychic, you need to get that Psychic. So yeah. 80 damage for 3 energies. But you do 10 to every single bench Pokemon your opponent has. That's power right there. Because that doesn't apply weakness and resistance. It's just 10 damage to each of those. So that means 30 to Charizard, 30 to Flareon, 30 to Centiskorch. You do 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and that's water damage. That's 30. That is a lot of potential there. I like that. So 80 damage, 10 to all your opponents, and then you use Bruxfish to knock them out next turn for 2 energies. So yeah, I can see that. Articuno is pretty strong right there. But you know, stronger? Making your opponent unable to play supporters. As long as it's in the active spot. Your opponent can't play supporters. No more Oak, no more Misty, no more Sabrina, nothing. Gengar just steps in, says fuck you, 3 for 100, that's fair and balanced. And it has 170 HP, which means it can survive a lot of hits, which means it can just switch out whenever it feels like it to another Gengar. So, yep, pretty strong right there. But you know what's stronger than that? The potential for 200 damage. 4 energies for 200 damage. There's potential. If they have 1 Pokemon, you do 200 to that Pokemon. If they have 2 Pokemon, you might get a 150 on 1 Pokemon. If they have 3, the potential to get multiple hits on 1 Pokemon. 50 damage to 4 random targets is nothing to scoff at for 4 energy. That is power. Because potentially one person might get hit twice, and that's 100 damage, and that knocks out half the roster. So you do the math. You do the fucking math. You can hit multiple targets with this piece of shit. But that is 4 turns. You have to evolve it 3 times. You have to evolve it. So if a Gyarados hits you, you're fucked. If you have something to like switch into, you're safe. You know, you have to just basically invest in this Dragonite, and that takes a lot of time. But I see the power. I see the potential. It's there. Now we get into the fucking strongest, most broken, most overpowered cards in the game. 2 energies. Flip 2 coins. If any of them are heads, you do 80 damage. 2 for 80 is perfectly fine. But 2 for 160, Jesus, what the fuck? This is stronger than the Kingler. There is the chance of them knocking out this Marowak for 2 prize cards, but like, the 160 for 2, man, it's worth it. It's worth the risk. It's worth the 2 coin flips. But let me tell you something. You can do 2 coin flips. You could potentially lose 2 prize cards. But for a 2 rare, you get Golurk, which has the same HP. Only gives your opponent 1 prize card for 4 energies. But here's the kicker. You get 2 coin flips for 100 damage each. Which means you have a 33% chance to do nothing, or you have a 33% chance to knock that fucker out. Knock that little bitch into smithereens. A 66% chance to knock out. Because guess what? A lot of Pokemon only have 100 HP. A lot of them do. If you keep going down, boom, you got this motherfucker. Boom, you got Lilligant. Boom, you got fucking... keep scrolling down until you see a Psychic weakness. Because that's also plus 20. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody getting knocked out. Boom, 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 boom. the potential to knock out anything that doesn't have 100 HP and anything with fucking less than 200 HP for 2 coin flips, that's worth the risk. That's worth the 1 prize card. That's worth the 4 energies. I hope in the future they add a double energy, because honestly, Golurk can benefit from double energy. Even if it lowers its damage by 20 damage, it will still be strong enough to knock someone out. Maybe even a XP share in the future, because if they have XP share, you could technically throw out a weak 1 energy psychic Pokemon, throw Golurk on the bench, give it an XP share, and it gets all the energies that other guy gets onto it when it dies. Thus, you'll be able to get a free energy, and you get to flip those 2 coins. But remember, 2 heads is a knockout. 1 heads is a potential knockout, but if you fucking miss them, you do nothing. But you know what's even better than that? Even better than that. For 3 energies. 3 energies for a basic Pokemon with 90 HP that has a 2 rarity, which means it's common as hell. 3 fucking energies. Flip until you get tails. Flip until you get tails. This is what Misty is. Flip until you get tails, motherfucker. This is the riskiest play. But if you fucking get more than 2 heads, you knock out half the roster. You get 3 heads, you kill it by default. Because 60 times 3, that's 180. The only thing that survives that is Venusaur. But then if you get all heads, 4 or more heads, it's a knockout. You know how easy it is to get a fucking heads? It's a 50% chance, bitch. So even if it's just 3 energies for 60, that's not like good. But if you get the 2 heads, it's 120, man. That's worth it. That's worth the coin flip. It's the boy. You have to play the boy. You have to play the Golurk. The coin flip is worth it, bitch. It's fucking worth it. That is my opinion. Fuck you. Honestly, out of all these Pokemon, I fully recommend anything that paralyzes. Fully recommend anything that puts things to sleep. You can obviously go watch people play this game, and it's basically the same thing, which is either play Haymaker, play, Venusaur with healing, play Executor, play, the Wheezing, Poison deck, play the Articuno deck, Blastoise, that's a thing. Gengar definitely has a lot of potential, but not a lot of people are playing him. Amistar has a lot of potential. Kingler has a lot of potential. Dugong has a lot of potential. Dugong is definitely like discount Kingler. Onyx has a lot of potential. Victory Bell has a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential down here. But I recommend, out of all decks, to play Lilligant, play Venusaur. You'll have a good time. The Lilligant Venusaur deck is definitely the way to go, because for 2 energies, you can get an energy on Venusaur, and you do 50 damage. If Lilligant's knocked out, you can switch into your Venusaur. By then, you'll have enough energies to do 100, so it is potential. That is the deck I fully recommend, but if you want a power play, you go Golurk.